Are you rubbing sleep out of your eyes? What are you doing?
Hey, dude,
Are you wiping sleep out of your eyes?
is that what I was doing?
I don't know what you're doing.
Maybe.
You look horrible.
Wow. Okay.
Have you already? I'm gonna ask you the following things.
Yeah, go
Have
ahead.
you just say yes or no? That's all. Don't explain. Have you A, walked the dog?
Dogs have been outside. Yep.
It's a yes or no question. Okay, you're failing already. Have you walked the dogs?
Yeah, dogs have been outside. Yeah.
Have you worked out?
No.
Have you pooped?
Yes.
Have you given your wife a kiss goodbye?
Yes.
Okay, good job. Welcome to the program on Armen Hammer. It's the
That's why
day
we
before.
had to. That's why
What's
we had to
that?
start at 8:15. That's why we had to start at 8:15 because
I
I had
thought
to
so.
get those 3 things done.
It's 2020. It's the craziest year in the history of anything. And we're going to talk CrossFit Games. We got Armen Hammer, the foremost expert on CrossFit. I love CrossFit. Sort of, not really.
Do you really?
No, not really. I'm fascinated by CrossFit. I just, I don't know. I don't know what's happened this year. I just found myself more and more interested. We talked about this last time, but here's the problem. And I'm just going to say it. You can remain silent if you want. Everybody's content, but yours sucks. I keep getting fed stuff by these douchey people or guys with like, who are trying to be you that have 8 views. And man, you're just the only source I can trust. So that's why you're here. And I know you've covered a lot of this on your show, but this is always a chance to bring in some new fans for you and just to educate our audience a little bit. Listen,
Yeah.
I was as stubborn or as uninterested as anyone, and I've slowly found my way somewhat interested. I'm not doing a very good job explaining this. Did you enter the Morning Shot Cup prediction contest?
No, I did not. I don't think that's fair.
What do you mean, to the average viewer?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's like saying, Joe Buck shouldn't predict a winner for the Super Bowl because he knows more than the average person.
No, I don't know. I didn't participate in it. I mean, I guess it's not too late. I guess I could. I did provide my predictions to I think Barbend asked me for my podium predictions and I gave it to him.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's just fun, just a chance to win stuff.
And all right, fine. I'll participate. For you, Matt B. Davis. I'll participate in morning chalk ups.
We don't have to do it this second, and we're not going to do a very long broadcast this morning because again, I know you've covered a lot of this. I guess the first, somebody wants to know. I usually don't do this, but this is clearly a fan of yours. Dobromir Gospodinov wants to know.
Dobo!
I knew it was a fan of yours. Are you going to do more episodes with your brother?
He's not the only person that's been asking. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully. I've been doing these I was doing these little podcasts called From A to Z with my oldest brother, and it was a lot of fun.
Does his name begin with a Z?
Yeah. And it was awesome, but things just got kind of really weird and crazy in terms of like work stuff. So we just kind of fell off from recording, but I know he really enjoyed doing it and I really enjoyed doing it. I just need to get back to doing it. So yeah.
How about me nailing that pronunciation on the first time?
I think you crushed it.
Okay.
Congratulations.
This show is not about me. Here's what I'd like to do.
Isn't it though? Isn't it about you a little bit?
Here's what I'd like to know. I think this is a good place to start. Make the argument where Tia loses.
Okay, here it is. The second event is a hill sprint. It's 320 meters.
Corn sack
hill sprint. 320 meters up a mountain, up a hill.
And how much does it weigh?
50 pounds on the guys. I think 30 pounds for the girls.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the case for Tia losing the CrossFit Games this year. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. The athletes are lined up. Dave has his little like clicker, and he's like, "Athletes ready? 3, 2, 1." And then they grab the sacks, toss them on the shoulders, run up. it's like a tight race in the beginning. You know, Carrie Pierce is kind of keeping up. Brooke Wells is starting to pull out ahead because she's got really strong legs. Tia's like hanging in there, hanging in there. Brooke Wells pulls a little bit further ahead. Mountain Lion on the right-hand side starts coming in. Brooke sees it before anybody else does, pulls ahead further. Tia in second place, blindsided by a Mountain Lion, dead. That is the only situation in which I envision Tia-Clair Toomey losing the cross.
Okay. Same.
Oh, God.
All right. Same question, Matt Fraser.
Tia-Clair Toomey's body tumbles into Matt Fraser, breaking his knee because all 10 of them are going at the same time. Again, those are the only situations in which...
See, I didn't think you'd have the same answer. I thought Tia's gap is wider.
Actually, I would say that it's more competitive on the women's side.
Even though she's dominated, even though she's won by more points in recent years.
Yeah, that's a good point. The women's field is deeper. In terms of competition, I think Katrin and Brooke can both push Tia. Looking back at the past few years, it's like you can't count 2019 because 2019 was a very strange year in general. So there was a lot of like outlier type situations because of the cuts with 2019. But if you look back at 2018, for example, you know, Tia lost quite a few workouts to Katrin, and workouts that would be the types of workouts that you would expect to see happen this year. So that is, you know, something that I think a lot of people overlook. Katrin is not like washed up or bad at CrossFit at all. I think a lot of people discounted her this season because she kind of kept to herself and she didn't do so well at the Rogue Invitational. But this type of event is exactly where she excels. Like she calls herself the sled dog for a reason. And this entire weekend is going to be sled dog stuff. So I think Katrin is going to be able to push Tia. I think Brooke is going to be able to push Tia. Brooke is looking like ridiculously fit. Like she was in crazy good shape last year and just wasn't able to show it off. She's in exceptionally good shape this year, but you know, between Katrin and Brooke, I think they could push Tia, but honestly, I think Haley is going to be on the podium this year. I think Haley's going to make it onto the podium this year.
Okay. So who do you have 4-5 for women?
I mean, I didn't really think of 4 and 5. I did 1, 2, 3. I think I did Tia.
There's only
Katrin,
5
Haley.
of them. What do you mean you didn't think 4 or 5? There's only 5 of them.
It doesn't matter. Okay, let's say Brooke in 4th and Carrie in 5th. There you go. Okay. I don't know.
It absolutely matters.
I don't think it matters that much.
I think for all these women, right? Like I'm going to fucking win. But I think there's a big difference when you go around the rest of your life. It's like, this is the year that I was 4th. This is the year I was 5th. I think it does. I think 4th and 10th don't matter.
Yeah.
But
okay, man. Yeah, it matters in like their achievements and on their CV and stuff. I'm saying like in terms of making a prediction for like the CrossFit Games, I don't know if it really matters that much to say, yeah, this person's going to be 4th or 5th when there's only 5 people competing.
I think it matters even more because there's only 5 of them. But whatever, dude. The workouts came out.
Some of them have, yeah.
A lot of them came out.
Yes.
And you were beside yourself, I feel like, with this toast to bar business. And
yeah,
I'm no expert, but I do know that when somebody's saying this is super hard, and while they're saying that, there's a guy behind them who's not making it look super hard, who isn't in the top 5. I do see that as a possible problem. Now, I jokingly texted to you, the guy's got one job, right? Isn't that Castro? At this point, you got one job. Make this thing great. You've had all this time to think about it. What do you think's happening? Like, what is happening? Because you've said, despite the fact that you may not like a lot of the things he does, you do think he does a good job in programming these games normally, yes?
Yeah.
I mean, you've said last year, you said that once they got down to 10, they could have been more original. But you said overall you like what he does. So what is he thinking? Can you make an argument for what he is thinking?
I don't know. I mean, listen, I don't know what Dave's thinking, and I don't want to put myself in a position to try and speak for him. All I can do is look at the the workouts as they've been released, look at the media that's coming out along with them, and the only thing that really makes sense to me is that they're literally have their heads on fire. Like they are just so sloppy with how they're rolling all of this stuff out. It's really not good. I mean, I'm not going to say it's embarrassing, but it's close to embarrassing. And CrossFit, like CrossFit needs to understand that this type of sloppiness, it reflects really poorly upon them. And when I say sloppiness, I mean, I don't mean anything about the workouts. That toes to bar walking lunge workout is fine. It's fine. There isn't anything special about it. It's not interesting. It's not very exciting. Everybody's going to do it unbroken. It's going to come down to your cycle speed, and whatever sort of like transition times you have. So it's fine. It's not a groundbreaking tough workout. But the sloppiness comes in two forms. The first form is in a presentation / marketing form, right? Which is as they're commentating, and which I think is great, which they should do more often, is this idea of providing more background on the way that workouts are formed, where they start, how they end up to where the final product is, and the testing that goes in between. I think that's really fantastic. So as Adrian Bosman is telling that story, like he's providing a sell for this workout. And the angle that they chose to sell the workout was it's like this perfectly programmed line between, you're going to red line and potentially have to break the sets and maybe not be able to, go unbroken. And you have to make this decision about how hard you want to try. And it's like that sell only works if you don't know anything about CrossFit. But they're talking to CrossFitters. They're talking to people who do these workouts. And so when you look at that workout, anybody who has ever watched a high-level CrossFitter workout or compete knows immediately they're all going to do it unbroken. If there's a single athlete out of the 10 that break up a single one of those sets, I would be shocked. Outside of like them slipping off the bar and accidentally having to break a set, it makes no sense to expect them. So like the sell is flawed because it's not selling a truth. It's selling like a complete bald-faced lie.
It's not right? It's not a lie as much as it seems like we must not have tested it, because if we tested it, we would have seen that anybody.
That's the second place where it's sloppy. In a technical sense, like from literally just a delivery of content sense, there should have been a moment where the editor is editing Adrian Bosman talking about how no one is going to do it unbroken, as the person behind him, Saxon Panchik, is literally doing it unbroken. The editor should have been like, oh, fuck, hold on. Hey, Boz, yeah, could you give me like another 4-minute recording of you talking about this workout? Because we don't want to look like morons when you're talking about it being unbroken. Thanks, buddy. And then hang up. Like, that is a sloppiness on a technical level, on like a practical, actual execution of your job level, that is unexcusable, absolutely unexcusable.
To make this more to make this more palatable for our audience, we have those exact same kind of conversations about Spartan HQ, right? Spartan race, the biggest race in our world. We literally can't figure out what happened. Sometimes my little birds, do you know what a big Game of Thrones fan I've become, by the way? I don't know if you know this, but I've become a massive 10 years after everybody else Game of Thrones fan.
I remember. I told you stop watching at the end of season
6. You were wrong. You were wrong, my friend. You were wrong.
Matt, I feel like now I have to discount all of your opinions about everything.
So good. You want to argue about the ending, that's fine. We can have that debate, but
the entire last season was a steaming pile of garbage.
You didn't watch it. You said.
I did watch it. I watched the last season. I watched the last 4 seasons.
When I asked you, you said stop after 6, and I said, what do you and you said you didn't watch.
No, I said I didn't watch the early seasons because I read the books, so I just caught up based off of that.
Okay, whatever. We'll get back to that. We have a lot to discuss there. But sometimes my little birds tell me this is how the argument went down. Like, hey, this is what happened, and we ended up on this. Sometimes I don't find out, but either way, it's always this. It's always people. I use this phrase all the time. Everybody thinks they hung the moon, and everybody can't wait to hear about how you hung the moon, right? Oh my God, this is going to be a game changer, right? They love it, like, and they just can't step back a little bit. And we all need that, right? I think my content's the best, right? I think a lot of things, right? So, and most people don't tell you the truth, right? Your friends or your family or your fans will be like, oh, this is awesome. And like, you probably should get a little bit of feedback, but we give them a lot of feedback. And it's like just one or two persons just go, hey guys, see what you're doing here? Just take a minute, right? So I feel your frustration and I see your frustration, but I almost re-edited your video because this little thing you do when you're describing how they thought the workouts were going to go, you're like, ooh, you do this amazing dance with your head and your fingers that I was going to like, they put in dubstep music over, some old Russians guys. I almost did that with you because your moves were amazing. You only started doing it again.
Thank you.
So that call doesn't happen because it has to get out. We got to get this out today. We got a schedule, yada yada. Which brings me to the point. Dave, speaking of game changers and whatever, Dave and his ilk love here's the surprise. This year it's half surprise, half not surprise. How do you think that affects our athletes? Like they could be practicing them right now, right? They could be practicing whatever now, right?
I mean, they could, but it would be a bad idea.
Well, they're not going to go ham, but just like hey, how does this transition feel? I don't know.
Maybe you're right. Maybe. Listen, I don't know. It's weird. It is a little weird that we are the day before the CrossFit Games and we know so much, because in the modern, like the trend over the past 10 years has been the opposite. This feeling is like what it was in 2012, when we generally knew what was going to happen on what day, with a bunch of empty spots of where events would go, but we generally knew what was going to happen each day. So this feels much more like then, where we know like half the events before it starts off. But the fact that over the past 10 years, we learned less and less and less before the games kicked off, until the point where at some point, including last year, the events weren't announced until right before the athletes were doing them. And so, this is a little strange. I don't think it takes anything away. I think the sort of weird secrecy, like the obsession with secrecy has grown too much. Like secrecy is cool. Being unexpected is cool. Valuing that above everything else is not cool. And the second aspect of that, more than just like the philosophical aspect of like, hey man, the thing that makes CrossFit Games the CrossFit Games isn't that everything is a secret. That's just one part of it. Other than that, CrossFit has done, as a company this season, very, very little to promote the CrossFit Games. I mean, they've really not done a good job. And part of that is because of staffing issues. Part of that is because of how the rest of the year has panned out with all the different things that were going on with CrossFit as a corporation. But realistically speaking, I mean, they completely dropped the ball when it came to marketing this event. Part of that is like how quickly they had to put together stage one. Another part of that is the fact that they're not embracing people like me or Justin with the Morning Chalk Up or any outside media. They're not giving us the tools we need to tell their story for them for free.
Except for the douchiest people in the world.
I mean, that's something different. Those guys like worked for CrossFit for years. They basically are, when it's like, the phrase, like there's two things I want to reference here. One is Mike Tyson saying, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Right.
Right. And then the second one is you don't elevate to your competition, you fall to your level of training. Well, both those things happened this year. CrossFit got punched in the face multiple times, and they did not elevate to the new world. They fell back to what they knew how to do already. So there's a reason why you're not going to see any new faces on the broadcasts. It's what they're comfortable with. It's what they know. It's who they already know. And honestly, knowing the people that are involved in these broadcasts and are doing like the on-camera stuff, including Mars and Heber, you know, including all these different people who are going to recognize doing like the Rogue Iron game, doing the CBS broadcast, doing like, these people are the comforting vanilla ice cream of the broadcasting CrossFit world. Everyone knows and recognizes them because they were taught to know and recognize them, not because they're the best at what they do. The best analyst in CrossFit is not involved in the broadcasts at all, as far as I can tell. No one called Tommy Marquez. Like, no one called Tommy to be like,
I was going to ask about, I was going to ask about him because wasn't he on the payroll?
He lives down the street. He's like a 20-minute drive from the venues. He could add so much to these broadcasts, and no one has called him to be on the
and he was on the team for a while, right?
And he was on the team for a while.
Right. Like, so would you say would you say you, he and Justin are like the top three choices? Would you say that?
No, I mean, it's different. I don't know. I wouldn't want to include myself and Justin because we all do different things. But if you're looking at if you're talking about the most educated and best analyst in the space about competitive CrossFit, it is Tommy Marquez. There is no one else. Like, he is head and shoulders above everybody else in terms of how good he is at his job. And that's coming from me, who I consider that to be one of the things I'm really good at. Like, right. I love this sport so much that like I can go toe to toe with him in referencing workouts from like 6 fucking years ago. But right. The guy knows so much. He lives it, he breathes it, and he's not being included in the broadcast. It makes no sense. So like when you look at the decisions that are being made, it's you got punched in the face and your strategy's out the door, and you're falling to what's familiar and what you already know you can do. You're not elevating yourself to something new, which is like, if that's the context, I think people just need to understand that's the context. That is okay. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's just okay.
Do you think Eric himself is conservative, or do you think whoever he put in charge, because he's got 10,000 things to worry about, whoever he said run the media is this conservative?
I think that they don't have, I honestly don't think they have any idea about how to do that. Like, there is no, it's so like the house to me, and this is just my read from someone on the outside, not working inside CrossFit, never having worked inside CrossFit, it just seems like the house is on fire and they're trying to do the best they can. But that means that there's a lot of sloppy execution and a lot of like tough decisions to be made. The question that I ask is like, looking at what they're choosing to actually put out, like, what did you decide not to do? Like, what did you decide? What is left on the cutting block? Because to me, the easiest and most exciting and most interesting content they could be doing isn't being done. Like, there is no content coming out from CrossFit about what it is like to be there right now.
In the bubble.
Nothing. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Well, like, tell me what it's like to be in the bubble.
Well, supposedly supposedly that's some of what the Buttery Bros are going to do. That's what I read in this morning's Chalk Up. It said, guess what, guys? Along with amazing content, Buttery Bros are going to make this year's doc and some BTS.
I mean, hey man, it's Thursday. The games start tomorrow. They've been right. On site all week. Have they published anything to their YouTube channel about that?
Maybe, but that's what I'm saying. Maybe we're supposed to get at this. But yeah, I'm in 100% agreement with you. I'm same. I'm surprised because, again, like, we're used to that. We're used to you know, Spartan and Tough Mudder are doing their own thing, and you know, assuming it's all great, missing certain points. I have to say, when it comes to this, Mudder actually does a slightly better job. Mudder is slightly more hip in like, hey, let's try to maybe share somebody else's stuff, or let's you know, Spartan is more just like, our stuff is great. Here's all of our shit. Here's 20,000 different brands. It doesn't matter if there's brand confusion. You know, like they just throw everything at the fucking wall. Um, so yeah, it's I feel your pain. Um, how about, would you give them, I guess we're not going to know till it's over, but in terms of all this overall stuff with like basically the house is on fire, the ship is sinking, they're just bailing water, how much room do you give them in, it is this year, it is 2020, every sport is like, what the fuck are we going to do, right? And like the NBA pulled it off because the NBA is a $3 billion industry and can figure it out, right? And we're in worlds that are not nearly as funded well. So how about they're doing the best they can with, I'm just trying to be
Sure.
devil's advocate.
No, I understand what you're saying. And yeah, they're doing the best they can. But, you know, I'm not, when it comes to something like this, I don't believe in the concept of minimum viable product. It does not apply because you're not talking about really extensively limited resources in solving the problems that I'm describing. A phone call does not cost any money. Like calling Bosman and being, hey man, we just need you to re-record this part real quick because you said the wrong name of the person who's on camera right now. Like that takes no money and very little time. Right. And it elevates the product to an absolutely huge level. Like what's the old saying? The person who tells you 19 truths is still a liar. Like out of 20 things, if you'd say 19 things that are true, you're still a liar because the one thing that you lied about is going to stick out. So
correct.
Like it's not about lying or truth. It's like, if you give me 20 pieces of content, 19 of them are good and one of them is completely off, you're going to be wrong. Like you're just doing a bad job. Whether or not you actually are doing a bad job, that's just the perception that happens. So, you know, like it's not necessarily about, you know, oh, if only they had more budget, if only they had more this, if only they had more that. Everything that I have had a general issue with in terms of their execution, in terms of how they're announcing things, in terms of decisions being made in terms of like with programming, every single one of those things is within their power to change or adjust. It was all proactively decided to be that way. So like when you talk about stage one and all the workouts, like immediately the moment you see them, if you have eyes and you've ever done CrossFit, you're like, oh, half of these workouts are very, very short. Very short. Like very short. Half these workouts are very short. And suddenly you look at it and you're like, huh. I mean, all I've seen over the past 2 months from Dave Castro's Instagram is him flying athletes out to test workouts. So at what point did we just decide that it's okay for half these workouts to be very short? So then when you look at like, you know, what are you actually spending all that bandwidth and all that testing? Like, what are you actually doing? Like that to me is the real problem. It's not that like they don't have the capacity to put on an event that's just as good or just as exciting or even better than games in the past. It's that like the allocation of the resources they do have at their disposal is very strange. Very strange. It's like they won't allow outside media into the bubble. Okay. And I get it. At some point you have to make a line and like, you know, how do they decide which outside media to allow when, you know, the people in charge of the CrossFit Games have such deep personal issues with most of the big outside media people? How do you decide who to allow, right? But instead of allowing outside media, they brought in someone whose job it is to run Dave Castro's Instagram.
Is that what, and did Buttery Bros run his IG?
No, they have a different person whose job it is to run Dave Castro's Instagram. So if you look at Dave's Instagram, again, for no reason, Dave's Instagram is like the source for information about the CrossFit Games. Why? Why isn't this being disseminated by the CrossFit Games page? Why isn't it being put out through official channels? Why do I have to follow his dog to know what's going on at the ranch?
Because they believe, it's called believing your own bullshit. It's what I was saying earlier, because they believe everybody loves that Dave is the evil Meister, and so let's put it on his channel. That's my guess.
Probably. I don't know.
Let's look at the schedule here, not the workouts, because you've covered plenty of that, but I'm gonna open my own calendar. See if I can hide everything else. It's just want to do a quick fuck it. I'll just
you know what? Just as long as you don't pull a Tubin.
Who's Tubin?
Did you not hear about this? He's like a political reporter for, I think, the New Yorker.
Oh, did he share there was porn in the background?
No, he pulled out his dick on like a Zoom meeting that they're doing like a rehearsal for they're doing a rehearsal for election night coverage. And he like whipped his dick out like he was on a different video call with somebody else on the side. It was really weird. It's really
That's
weird.
amazing. That's
he
amazing.
Got in trouble for that.
That's amazing. Well, it's funny because I'm never afraid of whatever. But anyhow, I'm just gonna look at. So I'm just looking at the schedule, okay? And I did the thing where they like you can just download everything, and so I just did that, right?
Yeah, I have that too.
It's all in there. It's in brown on my calendar. I don't know what it is on yours.
I think it's gray on mine.
You could maybe call this gray. So it says 11 a.m., right? So that's 8 Eastern PST, right, on Friday,
that's
right?
8 Pacific. 8 Pacific.
So I just said PST, motherfucker. So do you schedule your content accordingly? You're like, all right, I'm gonna have a thing as soon as the first round's over, or you just let it go? Or are you gonna do what you guys did in the first round with the morning chalk up guys? Like what's your weekend shaping up to be?
My weekend is going to be I'm going to try something a little different, something I haven't done before, at least not to like this extent. I'm going to basically put out quick previews in the mornings before the events kick off of what to expect that day, what general storylines. My goal is to do something like that as like a recap at the end of each evening. But I'm not 100% sure I can commit to that because it's going to be a long day. We'll see what happens. But during the events, I'm actually going to do watch-alongs. So I'm going to move my studio out of the office and into my living room. And I'm going to broadcast the games on my TV. And I'm going to broadcast myself watching the games and just talking about whatever I want to talk about.
See, I will tune into that for sure. That would be more interesting to me than just watching the game.
I'll have various people coming in and out. Like Chase is going to join me for a bunch of it, which is awesome. I love that guy. Katie's going to join me for some of it. We have some other friends coming over various days over the weekend to come watch it with us, so they'll be joining us.
And they'll all be getting COVID tested first, I'm sure.
Of course,
right?
Yeah. Well, you have to enter the Hammer bubble. Obviously. Right. No outside media allowed, please.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, we'll have mics out. We'll have like the arms set up so it's relatively easy. I'll be basically going along with the broadcast schedule, and we're gonna use Friday as kind of our tester and see what that looks and feels like. So if it's too exhausting, or if it's too lame, or like no one's interested, like I won't do it on Saturday and Sunday, but I think it'll be fun. Like I think it'll be a good time to just literally just point a camera at myself watching and like interacting with people, talking about whatever. Like I'll be on my phone, like we'll be Instagramming, like none of it really matters, honestly. Like none of it really matters. Like the games are going to happen. We're going to talk about the games. It's going to be a good time. And that's going to be my like approach to this. In terms of like working with Justin and Morning Chalk Up, I've been on the phone with Justin and his managing editor Joe like almost at least once a day this entire week, probably leading into last week. And we have a really good relationship. I think I have a good idea of what they're going to be doing, what their execution looks like. But this time we don't have the bandwidth to run the same type of show that we did last time. So I do not expect us to do something like that.
Well, I will definitely probably tune in and out of the watch along because I've actually got my 4th iteration of my virtual race I'm doing this weekend. And, you know, I have a life outside of this. So, you know, family stuff and whatnot. But
That's
yeah, I'll
fair.
definitely watch some of it. I'll definitely watch
Yeah.
some of it.
I mean, the
And
cool part about it is that it'll, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and it gives me an idea that that's what I think I'd like to do for this big Spartan Games. When they finally put that out, like the first episode, I think it'd be fun to do a watch along.
The cool part about it is it basically is going to run down into, you know, like 3-ish, 4-ish, like podcasts every day that happen to be surrounding the broadcast of the CrossFit Games, but are actually just a good time to like hang out and talk about whatever. So most of it is going to be about the games, but like, you know, I'm sure other things are going to pop up.
I was going to look for quick questions on here, and it says, I'm never afraid of whatever. Did I say that? Somebody's saying I said that, and I have no idea what that means.
It sounds like something you would say, Mappy Davis.
You know what I'm going to say to you, Armen? You know nothing. You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Dude, my mom loves Game of Thrones. She loved it. She like totally cried all the time because of it. But
right.
She also loves to like say that I look like Jon Snow, which is very nice of her. Yeah, I know. It's very nice of her, but I don't look like Kit Harington at all.
Okay, I want you to rate these people in terms of evilness. Okay, ready? I want to hear all 4 or 5 before I'm done.
How do you want me to rate them?
Most evil.
Okay, you want me to rank them? Okay, go ahead. Go.
Most evil. Joffrey, Cersei, Ramsay. Just those 3. Let's just go with those 3. Cersei, Ramsay, Joffrey. Most evil. Start with most evil.
I would say most evil would probably be Ramsay,
okay,
followed by Cersei, followed by Joffrey.
Yes, I'm in agreement with you all the way. People want to put Joffrey before Ramsay, and I say not a chance.
No, not a chance. Joffrey, listen, the thing about Joffrey is that he was cruel, he was unfeeling, he was a little manipulative, but he was too stupid to be evil. And the thing about Ramsay is that he was exceptionally cruel, and he was smart enough to use people's weaknesses in his cruelty, which is really evil. The only reason why I would say Cersei doesn't take the crown as like the most evil among those 3 is because she was acting and was sort of motivated by this like broken fear that was like a big part of who she was, that that like witch's prophecy was going to come true, that she would one day be queen, but it would cost her everything in her life. And like to her, it's like the God, which one is it? Is it Sleeping Beauty, where the witch is like where the queen is like the prophecy is like, oh, there's going to be a younger, prettier, and so she goes and like poisons Sleeping Beauty. Is that Sleeping Beauty, or is that the white? Is that Snow White, or is that Sleeping Beauty?
They're all the same, but whatever.
I think that's Snow White. So it's like Snow White, right? There's a little bit like you can kind of see like the seed of her motivation is like this like this completely deranged like mama bear thing that she has going on, but it's coming from like a tragic place. It just so happens that she's a fucking bitch the whole time, and she's terrible. But I think definitely Ramsay is the most evil of those 3.
Okay, I was really gonna let you go. I'm waiting on a guest, but now that we're talking about this stuff, I have to ask you. See that?
Yeah.
Why? Make your case why it's so bad. Don't let's just ending aside. Make your case why you think it's so bad.
Okay. DB Weiss and Max Benioff. Those are the
2 guys.
Those are the 2 guys.
Right, the showrunners, right?
Those are the showrunners?
Yes.
Or is it Dave Benioff? I don't remember.
Whatever, the two dudes.
D&D. They call them two. I think they call them D&D.
Get
they are hacks. Okay. They took good, well-written novels.
I'm finding my microphone so I can drop it.
So you can drop it.
He called them. Hacks, he called them.
They are hacks, and I can prove that. They took well-written material, source material from George R. R. Martin, and they adapted it to be a very good TV show. And it was very good because of its production value, because of the music, because of the acting, because of the casting, all of which they had some hand in. But the reason why it was so engrossing and the reason why everyone loved it so much is because it was well written. When they ran out of source material, these hacks not only completely failed to meet the bar of like a reasonable and cohesive characterization or explanation or storytelling, they focused on the wrong things of their show purposefully so that they could shorten the run of the show so they can move on to other projects. To them, Game of Thrones was a launching ground. They wanted to make their name and then move on to bigger and better things. And look what happened. Before season 8 was broadcast, they were signed to a 9-figure, $100 million plus deal with Netflix and their own Star Wars trilogy. By the time the season 8 was over and that steaming pile of garbage was forced down our throats, both of those deals were taken away from them. Star Wars walked away and Netflix walked away because they fucking suck.
Wow.
They're hacks.
Wow.
They're shitty writers.
They don't
have their own imagination.
Let's back up.
All they could see was just dollar signs and trying to capitalize on what they had done off the back of a better and more creative person.
Okay, and I will now counter this. If you'd spent 10 long years of your life on something all encompassing, right? And this isn't just like me and you working hard. This is like another level, right? This is like not sleeping a lot and like you take lots of hours of television, right? Hours and hours flying, whatever they did to put together this thing. You're gonna blame them for having an opportunity to finish it off and move on to something else?
No, I'm gonna blame them for having an opportunity to finish it off and move on to something else, and in the process of being opportunistic, taking a hatchet to something that did not deserve it. The fact that they, instead of putting on they didn't even do full-length seasons for the last 2 seasons, Matt. They cut the seasons short purposefully. They cut the number of episodes per season short. And what did they fucking deliver us? A Starbucks cup showed up in one of the last scenes.
I'm still not sure if that was real or not, by the way.
It was real. They edited it out digitally and changed it on all the whatever. Because
I remember when it happened. I wasn't watching the show, and then it was like, oh, here's this. Oh, they did it on purpose to get more eyeballs. Oh, look, there's another one. Like just didn't know it was real. So it really
the other one was a truck. Happened twice. It was a Starbucks cup and a truck.
Okay, really happened.
Yeah.
People noticed it. They screenshotted it. It's real.
Yeah.
Okay, what episode? I'll have to Google it, I guess, because
they're both in the last season. But my point is like they failed to have any integrity in the thing that they were creating. They were stewards of this story, and
they were excellent stewards at it. But then when they tried to do it themselves, they fucked it all up. That's what you're saying.
They were excellent stewards until they ran out of material, and the end result is embarrassing. It's actually, and I mean that in the actual literal sense of the word, like they should be embarrassed by what they put out in that last season. It's such a joke to me. Like, even if you look at the last episode of Game of Thrones, what were they even thinking? Like, there's such a disrespect for the audience's time and their own process, that it's like it's a breath of fresh air when it ends. You're happy that it's over so that you don't have to experience this bullshit anymore.
Well, what I'll definitely give you is everything was way too neat of a bow, right? Like that definitely was like, and I think we kind of like when our finales are a little unclear. And this one was like, here's a neat bow on every single person's story. Like that I'm not really a fan of.
It's not just about it being a neat bow on every character's story, because like, you know, if you don't count the awful, terrible new trilogy of Star Wars movies, you know, Return of the Jedi ends with kind of a neat bow for all the characters, and it's nice. It feels good. There's even a little Ewok dance party. But in season 8 of Game of Thrones, it's not that here's what it is. At the finale of Game of Thrones, the last season of Game of Thrones, even the last 2 seasons, it's not the same characters. And it's more of like nostalgic remembering of who the characters were 5 seasons ago, not who they are and have become and have turned into. The like mewling, complaining, shirking all responsibility and ownership of his decisions, terrible strategic leader, not a good fighter of Jon Snow, never showed up in any of the previous seasons. They just needed to make him really shitty at what he was doing so that they could move the story forward. You know, the turn that the turn that we see Cersei take, like they couldn't even keep her as a flawed, evil, but realistically motivated person. They couldn't even keep her that way. And they had to sort of like turn her into like, oh, she's just a protective mother. Everything that she did was because she's a protective mother. It's like she fucking blew up a church with hundreds of her personal enemies in it, ruining all of their lives, including killing like the heir of the biggest other families in all of Westeros.
I thought it was a pretty
She's
sweet
not
move,
just
actually.
It is a pretty sweet move. But when at the end of the season, when the end of the series, she's like, oh my God, hold me. I just don't want to be alone in this time that I'm going to die. Let's die together. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like you couldn't even land. You couldn't even stick the landing of like, you know what? We developed this character and we're not going to just like turn her around for no reason. Even the same thing that happened to Jaime. Why did Jaime go back? The only reason why Jaime went back is so they could have that moment for Cersei. There's no motivation for Jaime to go back to her.
Of course there is. That was very realistic. He has this possibility of being anew and being with Brienne, and he's like, but I really, I can't help that I love my sister. I can't help that I've got this fucked up relationship with her. I'm going to go return to her. That made sense to me. I didn't agree with it. I wouldn't have done it. He spent
the better part of 4 seasons moving away and being motivated in every possible way to not only understand that about himself, but also understand that him being with Cersei would have been the worst possible thing ever. And he actively left. So at one point, you know, he leaves in order to adapt and move on with his character. And the last thing they make him do for no reason other than to just be like, I guess this is what he would do, is like have him go back to King's Landing to die with her for no reason.
All right. I gotta go. Last question. I always say last question, then it never is. Last question. When the credits rolled on the end of season 8, who should have been leading Westeros?
Oh my God. It's called The Song of Ice and Fire, right?
Correct. By George R.R. Martin.
Yeah. What is The Song of Ice and Fire, Mappy Davis?
Well, it's those two, isn't it? it's the queen herself, right? Khaleesi of the Great Grass Sea, 20 other names, and Jon Snow, right? They're ice and fire.
It's actually more just Jon Snow. It's just Jon Snow. Jon Snow is both the ice and fire. That's the whole point. He's both.
Oh.
He is both the ice and the fire. And the fact that like Bran the Broken, it is too early in the morning for this shit, Matt B. Davis. The fact that Bran the Broken sits on the throne one episode after he says, "I don't care about the machinations of man anymore. I'm not here for this bullshit." And then later he's like, "Why the fuck do you think I rolled my wheelchair all this way, bitch? I'm the king." Like, are you fucking kidding me? Just crank my mouth open and take a shit directly inside of it next time.
Oh my god, I'm dying.
The idea of Bran the Broken being on the Iron Throne, or whatever is left, like the wooden wheeled throne of Bran the Broken, is such a fucking joke. Not because it doesn't make any sense, because I guarantee you, if George R.R. Martin is to finish this book series before he dies, it's gonna make more sense that Bran ends up on the throne, because he wouldn't have spent, like fucking DB Weiss and Dave Benioff, he wouldn't have spent 7 seasons making Bran this fucking worthless, useless, unrealistic, do nothing character, and then turned it around at the last second and said, "Haha, check it out, he's gonna be the immortal king of the fucking Westeros, all 7 kingdoms under this immortal fucking eye who can see everything." Like, you know what that is? They basically set up fucking Mao. Like, he is going to murder hundreds of millions of people because he's Bran the Broken. Doesn't matter. He can see into his like enemy's eyes. He knows exactly what's going to happen. He can control fucking ravens. Like, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. None of the original motivations for any of the characters exist in the last seasons of Game of Thrones, because they're not the original characters anymore. They're these weird, bizarro versions played by the same actors who look exactly the same, who have the same names, and instead of having any characters, what they have is bullshit.
Armen Hammer, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to debate more television with you. We need to do our own, we need to do more shows. I call you all the time. Maybe when these games are over, we can pick some shows, and I'll have my version of whatever those shows you do are, 4 years or whatever.
Sure. Let's do it.
That, what you just said about pooping in your mouth, I'm gonna make a video out of.
Well, that is exactly how I feel what happened at the end of Game of Thrones. So,
all right, watch the stupid games this weekend. Watch along with Armen.